So here's a quick entertaining story about karma to a early 40s ex-wife who completely treated her ex-husband 10 years ago like garbage, took advantage of him, all that, and then just broke his heart, kicked him to the curb, thinking that she still had it in the looks department and could do great with the guys and all that in her 30s, and only to find out years later, guess what? Her prime has passed, and he is doing great and in life, remarried to a pretty young gal, all that, and she is not doing so well. Title: I regret not making my marriage work, and now my ex-husband is happily remarried. She says here, when I was in my early 30s, I divorced my husband. We didn't have any major issues. Our relationship was just challenged after having kids. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I expected him to do more of the housework and childcare when he worked full-time. He's working full-time, paying the bills, providing life for you guys, and you want him to do more housework and all that stuff? He did help me when I asked, but I started to ask more of him, and I burnt him out. I used to have him wrapped around my finger and use that as an advantage to get what I wanted from him. So you can see in your first paragraph here, she's just a selfish a-hole. He eventually got tired of it, and I started threatening to divorce him. And he said he knew the baby was just stressing us out, and he would like to make it work. But when I was 30 years old, I thought I was a great catch because I was still very beautiful for my age, and I lost my mom bod, so I thought I could do better, so I just left him. At 30 years old, she really thought that she could do better than him after having a couple kids. Doesn't work that way. You can have darn good-looking gals in their 30s, but guys aren't going to be lining up like they were when the girls were in their 20s before kids. But she, of course, doesn't know this yet. It says here, I got our house from the divorce, and we share joint custody of our son. Fast forward now, I'm 41 years old and still single, and my ex-husband is 41 and got remarried to a 31-year-old woman who is incredibly beautiful. How about that? A guy in his 40s can start over, do well, got himself married to a woman 10 years younger, and look who's alone and doesn't have guys lining up for her anymore. Shocker. They had their daughter 3 years ago. He bought a new house. My son loves going to his dad's to spend time with his other family, and I'm not going to lie, it just makes me jealous. She has it all. She took my husband, took my kid, and she took my life that was once all mine. Hang on here, honey. You said in your first paragraph you chose to be difficult. You chose to have him wrapped around your finger. You chose to end the marriage thinking you could do better. How did this girl at that time period come in and sweep your husband away? Your life where it is right now is because of your choices, bad ones. And you made your bed and you have to lie in it. Your child's new stepmother, your husband's new wife, has nothing to do with this. It's all your fault. But again, guys, you hear right here, women and accountability. It's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault that I'm miserable. And all I have is my house that we create our family in, and now I live in an empty house. I'm 41 and I gained 20 pounds. I've got wrinkles, and I'm alone and miserable. I've had a short-term relationships after the divorce, but they never worked out. Men just don't want an old woman like me with a child, and I notice that men with kids just have a better time dating with kids than we do, and I hate it. Anybody with a brain could have told you that was what was going to happen, but you don't want to hear it. You thought you had it made. You had a giant ego when you divorced your husband, thinking you'd have it made, guys be lining up for you. Guess what? They're not. But this is what you get for treating your husband like garbage and having that giant attitude. I'm not happy anymore, like you could ever be happy. I wish I could go back when I was younger and I would have stopped being so childish. Newsflash, you're still childish. Now I have such a miserable life. I work a useless job now and I have to share my custody of my son, where he gets to go spend time with my ex-husband's house with his new and improved wife. I feel like dumpster standing right next to her. Well, you let yourself go, honey. My therapist said I should do something that'll make me happy, like a makeover, since I'm reminiscing about how I looked when I was much younger and comparing myself to this new beautiful young wife. So I decided to get a new hairstyle, and that didn't help. No matter what I look like a middle-aged woman. Well, you are a middle-aged woman. I have an idea. Don't get a haircut. Go get a gym membership. Stop eating cheeseburgers. Eat something healthy. Take care of yourself. And lose the attitude. This is probably the most honest I've ever been in a while. I just feel like crap. I wish I was a better wife over 10 years ago so I wouldn't be in this position. I know a lot of people on Reddit preach being alone and single, but honestly, this is not an ideal life, and I would wish on my worst enemy. Well, nobody's going to feel bad for you here. You had a good guy, treated you great, all that. You took advantage of him and you kicked him to the curb thinking you could do better. This is what is happening widespread. And so many gals can write confessions and things like this. Doesn't matter, because when people are young and they think that they're young, they're hot, they can do whatever they want, Father Time will catch up with you eventually, and you'll end up dealing with the consequences of your actions. So good for the husband moving on. See, guys, a man can move on, and he's doing great. And she's miserable, and it's all her fault. But of course, she's blaming the ex-husband and the ex's new wife. She took my family away from me, blah, blah, blah. Get the hell out of here. But again, the old joke about women and accountability.